My name is Edwin Hubble, and I researched and discovered the expansion of the universe. Ever since I was a young boy, I've always been fascinated with space. My grandfather constructed a telescope, and at a young age, I developed this fascination. My father believed I should pursue law, and so, in his best interest, I did, but that didn't really last long. I knew that even if I were second or third rate, it was astronomy that mattered. I then returned to school after only a few years to obtain my doctorate in astronomy. I had to delay my observations again to serve as a soldier in World War I. But I'll tell you, although I had spent time in law school and served as Major Hubble, I always had a passion for astronomy. Even after being discharged, I immediately went to the Mount Wilson Observatory where I began observing, still in uniform. I guess you could say my project was my passion and life. I was just trying to discover what was really out there. Now, what I was trying to do or find, all I really wanted to do was observe. I started in 1919 at the Mount Wilson Observatory, but it wasn't until 1923 that I noticed a hazy patch of sky called the Andromeda Nebula, and it held numerous stars, but they were a lot dimmer. I focused in on one star called the Cepheid variable and used it to measure the distance. You see, these are a type of star that can be used to measure distances just through their brightness or the way that they pulsate. Interesting, right? I deduced that the Andromeda Nebula was in fact a galaxy. It was too far to be within the Milky Way. After this discovery, I was trying to find out more. This opened up a new idea that the Milky Way wasn't the only galaxy in our universe. By the end of the 1920s, I had discovered enough galaxies and could compare them and classify them. I guess that's why they say I discovered the cosmos. I then developed this classification system based on the shape of the galaxy. There were ellipticals, spirals, and Baird spirals. I called it the Hubble tuning fork diagram because it looked like a tuning fork. After organizing these galaxies, I wanted to understand their distances. This led me to use the color spectrum and Doppler velocities. I began to measure their velocities from the spectra of their emitted light. This led to a great discovery, one that would change the way that we viewed space for endless years to come. I called this Hubble's Law, which I had discovered was the universe was always expanding. The farther apart each galaxy was from us, the faster it was moving. In turn, the closer the galaxy, the slower its movement. Now, my project, or rather experiment, occurred at what I would call my home, the Mount Wilson Observatory. We had the largest two telescopes in the world, the 60-inch and 100-inch Hooker reflectors. These devices led me to my discoveries. Because it was around the 1920s, there were a lot of significant events. World War I ended in 1918 thanks to Germany and the Allies. In Paris of 1919, the Treaty of Versailles signed, which promises to sustain peace through the creation of the League of Nations. And following that year, in October, President Woodrow Wilson, who was promoting the League of Nations, had suffered a stroke while speaking on tour. The 18th and 19th Amendments were ratified. The 18th was prohibition of alcohol to sell, and then the 19th was women's right to vote. Republican Warren G. Harding was elected to the presidency just by a landslide. Many presidents had come and gone, but in November of 1920, mass media was born, where the first radio station began broadcasting the results of the presidential election. Of course, the beginning of the era was coined the Roaring Twenties, with nothing but dance and excitement. And perhaps the most significant event was in October of 1929, which was the crash of the stock market, leading to the Great Depression. Aside from all of these events, the involvement of our discovery was a little attributed to my colleague Milton Humason. He was definitely involved after my discovery. He and I estimated the expansion rate of the universe to be 500 kilometers per second per megaparsec. And a megaparsec is a million parsecs. 1 parsec is about 3.3 light years away. So imagine how crazy that must be. As you may already know, my role in this project was simply the discovery itself that led to more research and my findings on the actual expansion of the universe, which supports the Big Bang Theory. And after publishing my data in 1929 over the universe and its uniform expansion, the scientific community could be convinced about all of these observations. My discoveries led to an award in astronomy with the Nobel Peace Prize and even a great telescope named after me, the Hubble Space Telescope from NASA. Fortunately, I will not have known any of this. I wanted astronomers to be recognized. I only wish my name to live on and to inspire other astronomers and physicists to continue searching for something more. All I ever did was hope to find something we had not expected. My last greatest contribution to astronomy? Well, I worked at the observatory until the summer of 1942. I left to serve again, but this time for World War II. After years, I came back and went back to my observatory. I had a role in designing the construction of the Hale 200-inch telescope on Palomar Mountain. This beauty was 4 times as powerful as the Hooker. Imagine the discoveries that had yet to be unearthed.